think one of the most important things to know is that the relationship between water, peace, and conflict isn't simple. It's complicated by a variety of intervening factors and context-specific that really pulls in aspects of social, political, and economic factors that shape it. And so because of this, an entry point to peace building in relation to water resources or also conflict resolution really takes context-specific knowledge and working with communities to take a step forward.
Water can be used as an entry point when there's a political impasse. For example, in Libya, we've seen that over the constitution. In Kenya, we've seen that when there's a lot of intercommunal violence, coming together and coming to an agreement over shared resources like water points and pasture can actually lead to more cooperation between communities who've been fighting for many, many years.
Unfortunately, today, if you look at Iraq and the divide between the different sects in Iraq, you can see that some people have more access to water and some have less access to water. In Jordan, the same, the upstream farmer versus the downstream farmer, the upstream country versus the downstream country. So when we speak about water governance, we need to make sure that people in the country would have equal treat. If you give more access to some tribes or sects or sectors, then you are ignoring the other part of society, so you create instability in the development, and that is not something that we would like to have.
So community dialogues are traditionally they are very important elements in the community. You know, by understanding the community dialogues, bringing people together, it is to help them resolve their own problems and also to identify what are the problems and what are the solutions. So in this case, we have used community dialogues to diffuse some of the disputes that happen within the communities. We have also used the community dialogues to see on how they can actually bring in different stakeholders. For example, the women, the elders, the youth. This is where they come together to discuss and find solutions to their problems.
The people who actually suffer from lack of water are actually the women and the children. So it's important to be able to ensure they're included in some of those processes so that they can be able to air maybe some of the issues that affect them in terms of water collection, in terms of climate change, in terms of peace building, and so on. So apart from the women, we are talking about the youth. So all these people need to be part of the processes that are going on. Otherwise, if you don't address what is really at their hearts, then the interventions that you then develop will not actually address the issues that they're facing.
So dialogue and mediation is obviously key, but it's really important that it's inclusive and that what I mean by that is that it includes not just members of the political elite, members of civil society, but it's as widespread as possible and includes those marginalised groups, not just women and youth, but also say marginalised ethnic groups, groups that are not necessarily part of these dialogues or processes.
I think a great practice when approaching environmental protection is not to repeat it too many times, but is to really focus on the overall system. So to really understand what are the political, social, and economic dimensions that really shape potential conflict. And that way, it's a little bit easier to see what the potential ramifications of any environmental protection might be. And in learning about the system, it's also important to have those discussions with stakeholders, because something that's seen on the technical side as a good solution to environmental protection might not be implementable, or may in itself trigger other impacts that then can cause potential conflict.
I think local organizations and civil society have been working so hard on these issues already, and it's something that, people in countries that are water scarce and really dealing with climate change in a more acute form at this point, they're well aware of the issues and they're dealing with them to an extent. However, they need broader support on so many levels. On one hand, just with basic resources of just providing further pumps, pipelines, infrastructure that's needed to actually help facilitate certain water to reach an area. But then, again, a higher level, helping them in their negotiations with governments and government authorities and security forces and militaries, where local communities can absolutely have a voice, but those voices need to be bolstered by external powers as well.
The other thing that we have seen as we work within the communities is data and knowledge. I think there's very little investment in that, and it takes a lot of money to be able to produce good data. But I think once you have the good data, then it's able to sort of inform whatever initiatives you're going to do in terms of climate change, in terms of peace building and environmental protection.
I think that it would be wonderful if the EU could actively promote the cooperation between different partners working on the ground. Because in my experience, working on the ground with different NGOs, different research organizations, different actors, it takes time to develop the shared understanding, and the methods and data and approaches used in climate and water are very different from the approaches used for peace building. So it takes time to find out how the two can help each other, support each other. So I think to facilitate that, it's important that there are incentives for different partners to make that effort, to work together and to get an understanding of each other's methods.